It's dry January, and to those of you participating, awesome. Good for you. Look out for yourself and your health. If you want to stay dry this January and still have a great tasting beverage, look to Athletic Brewing with their incredible non-alcoholic beer offerings. These award-winning, great tasting beers are also vegan friendly. There's a reason Athletic is one of the fastest growing companies, let alone breweries in the country. You can get Athletic Brewing NA beers delivered right to your door as well. Go to unitedwedrink.com/athletic and start shopping. Grab a sixer of IPA or of their limited edition brews that are constantly rotating with new styles. And right now, you can get free shipping on any order when you buy 2 6-packs or more. No code needed. Just go. Add to your cart, go to checkout. There you go. Free shipping. It's going to come right to your doorstep. Take a break from alcohol with something that tastes great. Try Athletic Brewing today by going to unitedwedrink.com/athletic. Athletic Brewing, beer fit for all times, especially dry January. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, coworkers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another new episode of the United We Drink podcast right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich. I'll be getting to my co-host Kevin Abbott here shortly because we have a guest, and that is a guest that I kind of teased on the last episode, but I kind of didn't. And we'll get to that in just a second. But I want to start off by saying a big thank you to everyone who tuned in and listened to the last episode with Bobby Bump. It is currently, as of recording this, our second most listened to episode of all time. And it's very close to our most listened to episode of all time. So welcome to all of you new listeners. Hopefully you stick around for future episodes. Maybe you're going back through the archive and listening to old episodes of that. But I'm very grateful for all of you that came and listened to a very awesome conversation with a great person about an important topic. So thank you once again. Today, we have a brand new guest. And this is someone who I've wanted on the show for a long time. This is going to be a theme, I feel like, of this year. People who I've been meaning to have on this show for a while. And we have today our friend of the show, Tommy Kelley. He's the head brewer at State Brewing in Lawrence, Kansas, a brewery that's been around for a long time. And he has been there for a long time. Tommy has worked his way up through this company. He's going to talk about that. I don't want to get too much into that. And he's going to talk about his brewing there, what has been going on, his stories through the pandemic. And also, Tommy is a beer judge. He judges big competitions like Great American Beer Festival. And we wanted to talk to him about judging and beer competitions and things like that. This is a really fun conversation. We're really happy to have had him on. I am going to preface this. Coming into the editing, found out that there were some minor issues here and there with some of Tommy's audio. He cuts out for about a second. You might miss a word here and there, but I feel like it's not too bad, and you can really still get the gist of what he's saying. It tends to usually happen when he starts talking, and then he's fine through it. I don't know what happened, maybe a connection issue, but like I said, I don't think that it is too bad, and I don't think that it takes away from you being able to understand what he's talking about and understand the flow of our conversation. So, apologies on that if it bugs you Sorry. But other than that, let's jump into our conversation with Tommy Kelley from Free State Brewing. All right. Thanks, Tommy, for coming on. It's a long time coming. I'm calling 2023 my long time coming with guests. I'm going to get a whole bunch of people who I've been meaning to have on the show onto the show finally. We had Bobby Bump on a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm going to have you. I don't know, probably get Libby from Second Shift on at some point soon, and so many others.
That's a good crowd, right?
Yeah. I think so. We'll have to have a happy hour with all the guests at the end of the year. So Tommy, you are head brewer at Free State Brewing, a brewery that has a long history in the state of Kansas, in brewing, in the state of brewing in general in the country. Opened in with 89, I see here.
1989. Our story is really cool, actually. It makes me. It's one of the cool things that like makes me proud to work there is the story behind it. Our owner Chuck Magrill, back in I guess it would have been like 87, 88, had the idea of having a brew pub in downtown Lawrence, where down the University of Kansas is there. And he had this idea of making local beer. And at that time, it was illegal to even homebrew in Kansas. So literally about 2 years going to Topeka, which is about 25 miles west of us here in Lawrence, and going to the Capitol and talking and lobbying his way into making it legal to make beer in Kansas. And long story short, he got it, he won, and we opened in February of 1989. And so, yeah, this February we'll be celebrating our 34th year. And we were in a really good class of 89. I think Boulevard opened a few months after us. And then Odell, I believe, opened that same year as well. So,
Shit, really?
Yeah. So, it's crazy how a little place in Lawrence, Kansas, has been open as long as we have. We have a little 15-barrel brew house at our original location in downtown Lawrence. That's currently where I'm heading right now. It's where I got my start, where I learned how to brew, and a few years later, I started working at our production facility as well, and I was doing both. But at that time, I was also bartending at Free State. When I started in 2006, I was a busser, just bussing tables. So I kind of worked my way up a little bit. So now I'm running the 15-barrel brew house pretty much by myself. We have a 40-barrel brew house about 2 miles away from our production or pub, and that's where we're bottling and canning. Opened in 2000 and supposed to open in 2008. We had a fire that set us back about a year, and then opened up about a year and a half later or so. So about time we started brewing and packaging over at our production facility. And currently we're doing about 10 to 11,000 barrels a year.
Between both facilities?
Yeah, the pub has definitely slowed down a lot with the production brewery. We have made, our flagships have basically moved over to production side, and we can move kegs over as we need them. And then the pub is our playground, if you will. It's where I get to make, mess around and make recipes and make make oldies and stuff that our clients love and our people love to drink and are expecting. So yeah, it's a lot having the sides of the brewery. It's a lot fun for me to be back down at the pub on the smaller scale.
Tommy, I have a question for you. So you said that you were pretty much running the 15 barrel yourself. Are you like one of the only employees? Like literally, are you doing cellar work and things, or do you have a staff over
Yeah,
there?
I am literally the only brewer
Wow.
right there. Our director of brewing operations, Jeff, helps me out with logistics and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as brewing, filtering, cellar, CIP, I mean, yeah, it's all me.
How many FVs do you have?
Cool. I have so again, our brew house is original, like very early, well, late '80s JV Northwest system. I have four 15 barrel conicals and then a 30 barrel conical, and then stairs above our conicals we have three 14 barrel horizontal lagering tanks. Eight, I guess, altogether, but five conicals. And
Okay.
then I used to have 9 serving vessels. I have three 15 vessels unjacketed, all in a cooler. And then we used to have let's see, so 6 Grundies in that cooler as well. We removed 2 Grundies recently and made them portable. So we put them on skids that we can transfer beer from pub to production in more larger quantities, So in case we want to do a one-off run with 7 barrels, we can just move 7 barrels over there in one vessel. So and it's given me a
And
lot of room to serve kegs and we have 16, so we have the potential to have 16 beers on at a time.
okay.
And any brights, or are you just doing slow carb, like with head pressure in your FVs, or do you carb in the serving tanks, or the
Yeah,
serving tanks?
everything's getting carbed in the fermentation vessels. We have a DE filter downtown. It's very old school. I don't know too many people that still use a DE filter, and I don't recommend them. But we currently doing that, and like I said, so our cooler has 3 large bright tanks and so 4 Grundies in there. So those I clean every day. Anytime a beer gets out of it, it gets CIP'd, sanitized, and then ready to get filtered into. So
Wow.
Got to be a well-oiled machine after running a similar. I mean, I'm obviously I'm sure you've built since the original installation in '89, but I can imagine it runs like a a Swiss watch at this point with how much history you have running beer through that brew house.
it's really funny. So I came back down to the pub right about 2 years ago right now, and so I first started brewing in 2010 at the pub. I mean, basically 3 brewers there and 2 of us there at all times. And getting 8 to 10 hours of work. And now, like, I'm doing this by myself in, 7 hours and something, like I'm like, oh God, did I miss something? Or I'm like, how did we do this? But we're not doing the volume that we used to do. And
Hmm.
but like you said, yeah, it is those just, I mean, set in stone. Like I said, I've been doing this so long, it's muscle memory basically.
So I don't really miss because so I was a brewer, hands-on brewer for many years, and I'm in operations now. I don't miss the tail end of my career in like production a lot. Like, I mean, I like some of the mindless aspect of like I'm making the same thing over and over again, and I do love trying to recreate the same recipe. But if there's one thing I do miss is like early days of being the only person in the brew house and just kind of doing your own thing on your own time. If I had to go back and do it, like what you're saying to me is very, very appealing. I like that idea.
And I did it. See, if I want to be really honest, it came from me from having a mental breakdown during COVID. Like
Mm.
we shifted our production from you know 40 keg package to 90 package, and everybody else slowed down during COVID. We did not, and and to put that in perspective, at that time we had two brewers on a 40-barrel system doing 10 barrels. So each of us were doing at least 5,000 barrels, a piece. And I mean, not to mention our production team who stepped it up, where they went from bottling 2 days a week to bottling, canning, just package 5 days a week just to keep up. So it was, I mentally broke down, and, I think we both know how to get to you. And especially at a time where you weren't able to normal routine, your interactions with any, we saw the same people, and not to mention, I happened to rent my other room out at my home to a guy that works with us, so it was like even more like, God damn, I see you every fucking day. And no, and he knows I love him, but but it's just no, and I kind of had a serious mental breakdown, and I needed to get away, and luckily, it probably didn't go the greatest way, but I love the relationships I've had at Free State with everybody, and they understood what I was going through and allowed me this opportunity that I have now, and I'm for it. Because at the point in time, it's just like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And I know I love this, and we all have still these moments that, and sucks. I don't want to do this anymore. But at the end of the day, we all know we really like this, and we want to be a part of it. And I'm just glad that I'm in a place that allowed me to, find myself too, I guess, if that makes sense,
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
huge, man.
yeah, yeah. And then that is not status quo in this industry, as we all know.
Nope, not at all.
Not so, and I
You're
think,
very lucky. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that has to do with our history, just we've been here as long as we have, and same owner, same guy. He knows, he understands, and not to mention just the people we've had. Our original brewmaster is now with Hopsteiner, but he on the board of the Brewers Association for a long time, and heck, I didn't even know that, until I was out of town and mentioned Lawrence, Kansas, and that I brew at Free State, and people knew that, and I'm like, what? How do you know? There's 70,000 people in this town, like we're not huge, we weren't packaging or anything, but they're like, oh no, Steve Brott, you're brewmaster, and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally know, and shout out to Steve Brott. If you need hops at Hopsteiner, he's a good guy to go to.
Used to do a lot of business with Hopsteiner at my previous brewery. They were, I think, our primary hop provider over there. Always had a good relationship with them. They made stuff very easy. I didn't work directly with him, but also that might have been before he went over there.
Steve got there right during COVID, actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah, COVID. way before that. So you've only worked at one brewery then your entire career, and you're going on almost 17 years.
I guess August will be my 17th year. It'll be let's see, I started brewing in 2010. So it'll be my, 13th brewing, but it'll be my 17th year with the brewery.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Fun ride, man. Like, I was in college, man. I came there to make some money to buy some beer and maybe get some cheap beer, and I just really hit it off with the director of brewing operations, Jeff. I mean, my mentor. He's taught me everything I know and inspired me to do everything I do. We just hit it off as friends, and I became a bartender, and I love craft beer, and like what it was he took me to the Great Taste of the Midwest in Madison, Wisconsin. I don't know if you all have ever been, but it's the beer festival in the world, at least in the country. Don't go to GA, go to Great Taste of the Midwest in Madison, Wisconsin. I just saw the camaraderie that brewers had. This is way back earlier. Obviously, this is a long time ago, but it was just so cool to all these people from all over the country, and how everybody was sharing, like, oh, this is what I did. This is how I made this IPA. This is how I made this beer, and it was just great. That's when I kind of realized, well, this is really cool. Like, and you get paid to do this? Like, I just came out here to have a good time, So, and I was in college for finance in, business and finance, and graduated. The economy was not doing too very well. I don't know if y'all remember 2009, 2008. And trying to get a job at a bank at that time, it wasn't really going to happen. So they asked me if I wanted to learn how to make beer, and I had never homebrewed. My first batch of beer I ever helped make was 500 gallons of our pale ale, and yeah,
hell of a start.
It's been a hell of a ride, I'll tell you that.
You mentioned something a little bit ago about just going through the mental stress of what COVID was bringing and the increase in workload that you were taking, and thinking about quitting, and then being like, I still love this. That's a thing that I struggle with a lot. And I think I mentioned this maybe on the last episode. I know I've mentioned it on other episodes. It's a tough thing. It's a love-hate relationship with this industry. And like, I want to, on days, just burn the whole thing down, walk away from it, and never step foot in a brewery again. But then, like,
that's, by the way, why they won't let Mike have matches at Copper Point.
I don't know about my lighters, though. But then, like, you talk to people who are still doing it because of a love, and are being taken well care of by their employers, have great coworkers around them, and it's like, it can still be done. It can still be done the right way. It can, like, you can make good beer, you can have good relationships, you can be a part of your community, you can make art, you can do all of these things. It's not completely lost. So hearing you go through something like that and have your company have your back and work with you and try to help you is just so refreshing to hear. I know it is the rare thing, but I hope that some breweries will catch on and start seeing that and start taking care of the people who make your company work.
Oh yeah, for me, it's just, I started before we had our production, before we packaged and all that stuff, and got me on to the brew side. I've been a part of the biggest growth, of this brewing company. So like, I feel like it's part, like that's me behind you. And I take pride in that. And, for me, it's always been, and this is because of the people I've learned from, it is we can always make better beer. We've been fortunate enough to win some medals, and be very successful and all that. But we always have the mentality of how can we make this better? How can we keep this good? And quality has always been what we strive for. And I think that's what driven me to be, to judging and to the Cicerone and stuff like that, is because I had people ahead of me. And I sat down at taste panels for the first time and was listening to them describe, three different versions of the same beer. I was confused. Like, I'm like, what do you mean? It's all Copperhead, like it's all of our pale ale. Like, and they're like, well, this one's grassy, this one's piney, and it didn't click for a while until you, sat and learned, and just been part of the fun part of this whole journey of craft beer. And I think you guys have said multiple times on the show, and I'm a firm believer in it, is there's no such thing as a level 100. You don't, it's in the video game, you don't like, I hate the term master brewer. Like, if somebody ever says that, I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I'm a fancy plumber. Is all I am.
That's a good term.
Yeah, that's a good one. I always said glorified janitor, but fancy
that,
plumbers,
yeah,
I like that one too.
Custodian, Dick. Yeah. But
I'm very interested. I mean, you just talked a lot about panels and tasting and judging. I want to talk about judging. Mike, can we talk about judging? I know you're.
Yeah, that was a great segue.
Yeah, you're the boss here, but I know. So I want to hear more about your experience in that. But I have a question for you, and I don't know. You are a listener of the show. I don't know if it's a religious listener. You've listened to all the shows or select ones, but I have made the assertion, and I want you to take me down to Chinatown. Tell me why I am wrong and I'm a moron, and I'm just trying to defend my own shitty beer. But I have always been of the opinion is when you get to the upper levels of good brewing, right? So we're making a wit beer, or we're making a nice lager, or we're making a good porter. When you get to very, very good, am I right in saying that if you judge the beers from GABF on this Wednesday, and then you judge the same beers again in 2 weeks, you'd get a different gold, silver, and bronze?
You know what? I would tend to probably agree with you. Yes, I bet you'd be right.
That's something right. I've always looked at it like, when you're talking about quality, when you're talking about beers that don't make that second and third round, and they have all flavors, and they might not hit the style guidelines, but when you get to like, they're all making good beer, anyway, I'm sorry.
Those final tables, and it's weird. Like, you don't, sometimes you have a final table. So like, I've been fortunate enough to have a few. They're really fun actually, like, because you're awesome. Like you don't have a bad, you don't have a bad. Those first round flights, depending on what you're judging, can be rolling dice. But you're getting a great flight of beer, and you're going to give it the best attention that everyone deserves. Interesting conversation, debates. I haven't been at a table where there's somebody dying on a hill and not budging. Heard stories, but never been involved in anything like that. But I think, when I'm judging personally, it's all about self and just looking at those guidelines because I'm a brewer, I'm interested in beer. Like half of the battle is picking what style to put it in, especially with the type of beer that we make at Free State. We rarely do style, if you will. Our Oktoberfest, for instance, which is our selling beer for our seasonal, it outsells any seasonal beer. It's crazy, but we've entered that in Vienna Lager. We've entered it in Märzen. We've entered it, and it gets to the final table sometimes, or it gets to it definitely passed first round, and then you get your notes back like, oh, it's good, but it should be in this category, and then you're like, okay, well, we'll try that, or maybe we'll tone back on the caramel malt, this next time, and that, and then it's like, oh, great beer, but there's better, and you're like, oh, you know, with a beer like that, with us, we know that we got a great beer, and we're not trying. The beer sells itself, so getting an award, it'd be great, but it's not necessary for us, so we don't think that way. But I digressed a little bit there, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's you going through that mental process of a brewer who you obviously, as being a judge, you respect the medals, right? You respect the competitions, and I think we all do. And even when I poke fun at it, I am only ever trying to say that because I don't want people to think that if you don't win a medal for a beer, like sometimes in some way people are like, well, this never won a medal, right? And somehow that means it's bad. No, it means that it could be the fourth or fifth best beer in that group for 10 years in a row, and that's still one of the best beers in the world in that style. I think everybody that wins a medal, they should put it up on their social media and put, whatever, the World Beer Cup or Great American Beer Fest or your local beer fest. Put that emblem on your six pack if you want. But I think that sometimes we look for that validation and we chase that, and you're trying to find the right category, and you're even tweaking maybe a beer you really like to try to get it in there. We've had those discussions with our wit beer, and we've had the note, this was one of a bunch of great beers, and you kind of missed the cut because we had to whittle it down, right? So we're thinking, well, is it a little bit too yellow in color? Do we need to make it more pale and white? Would that have ticked it to the next level so we could get that gold medal? And then one of my partners, Bill McPhee, would lose his mind and feel like he has obtained something he could, take to the grave with him. But we're thinking about this, and I just want to make sure everyone understands, like, there's a lot of great beers out there, and not everyone can win the gold or the bronze or the silver.
See, I see.
Yeah,
I see two different things there, right? Because I understand what Tommy was saying about trying to find the category that your beer that maybe could cross 2 to 3 different style guidelines and try to see where it really can fit in. Like him saying, like, their Oktoberfest that they have tried it out in Märzen and in Vienna Lager, which are kind of different, but kind of the same. And possibly depending on that batch, could lean more towards one or the other. Like I've had before at a previous brewery, we had a spicy chocolatey imperial porter that I put into the spice beer category, and was told in one of the notes that it should have been in the chocolate beer category. And I'm like, huh, okay. Tried it out the next year in chocolate beer category. Too spicy. Should have been in the spice beer category. It's like
Well, there are those ones where you do like some of those ones that do specify like, hey, this is a chili, like this is a spice beer. If you use chili, it will not go in here. You have to put that in a chili beer. So like, I
yeah.
don't know if that was one of the same instances you're talking about, but
I
I
might have
mean,
the
I get what
categories a
you're.
little bit mixed
No,
up,
no,
but it
I
was one of
get
those
it.
like, you should do it in this. We did it in that. No, it should have been back. And it's like, okay. But the other thing is, I don't like changing a recipe to try to fit into a different category, because then you're changing your beer altogether, and you might be changing it away from what makes it really sell to, and that at
What you
the end of
like,
the day is what's most important.
what
Like,
you're proud
if
of.
yeah,
Yeah,
if you're
and
wit,
is it selling at your local, or if your package is selling, or you're selling it at your pub? Like, what's the
yeah,
big deal?
medals are just self gratification. They. It's pretty much. I haven't seen actual studies, but most breweries pretty much agree it doesn't move the needle in sales all that much. It's all for just self grandeur.
For us, I guess it's peer recognition.
Mhm.
Just knowing that, hey, these are the folks that you tend to respect and look at in the end, and they're giving they're giving you your flowers, and unknowingly, obviously, because all
Mhm.
you are is a number to us. But for me, it's just fun and learning, and I mean. Yeah, for me, I remember when what really got me into this was I I did our own program. Free State paid for me to do that, and I took at that time there was only 3 levels, and when I took the certified one, it really I studied a lot, and it made me look at other beers that I wouldn't have ever tried at the time, and learn about. And I was the guy going to going to the liquor store all the time and just looking through, like, okay, those, oh, yep, that's a classic example of that style. And then you'd go and try that, and I'd make my notes and hope for the best. I took the test, and it worked. And yeah,
So I have a question, and we're talking a lot about styles, right? And I think you mentioned earlier, one of the best things I can ever say about a brewery is they brew beers to style. Because to me, I like the idea of, I'm going to have a Marzen, or I'm going to have a Pilsner, or I'm going to have a Wit or a Hefeweizen. And now I know what I'm getting myself into. Sometimes when you're pleasantly surprised, hey, this is a wit beer, but it doesn't taste like a traditional Belgian wit, but it's still really good. That's still out there. Don't get me wrong. But I love brewers that are concentrating on trying to do the best expression of a certain style. Another question that we talk about here on this show that I'd love you to weigh in on, related to that, is we talk about the Untapped ratings, and back in the day, the Beer Advocate and the Rate beers, right? And the fact that
yeah.
no pale ale will ever get more than a 3. The best pale ale is a 3.5, right? The best, even like a regular at West Coast IPA. Where do you is there a 5 Pilsner and a 5 pale ale? Or is there do they deserve that number, or does that need to be reserved for the most ridiculous, over the top beers in the world?
I'll preface this with, I don't know if you're familiar with the old Sandlot brewer and his award-winning beer from the early 2000s, but it was called Beer Judges Are Boneheads. So it's just I there's no 100 brew. Like you might nail a beer one year and just like, oh my god, that's great, but like consistent hard in this industry, as we all know. And I think that's that's one thing Free State's been lucky about is we've been very consistent. And but a off the top of my head, like I couldn't say that there. I love. I could tell you I love some of my favorite pills. Like I love Victory Prima Pills. Like, love that beer. Is it a 5? Ah, no. Uh,
Well, but
you know,
could you put Prima Pills up? And I know I'm dating myself big time here because I am not on beer Twitter and I do not follow the trends because I am a stodgy old 41-year-old. But would does Victory Prima Pills belong next to Dark Lord, right? Or the classic it beers that were getting the highest ratings, or do certain styles of beer just not belong in that conversation because as their nature they're not as complex or they're not as interesting?
see, I'd probably be different on this because I think those beers are as good as a Dark Lord, if not better. Like the fact that you can make a pilsner that clean and that good is very impressive. I think and speaking on lager beer alone, like we have a brewer here in Kansas in Topeka that I'll argue he's one of the best lager brewers in the country, and nobody would know who he is unless you're really nerdy in the industry. But the man's got like probably close to 30 Great American Beer Festival awards and World Beer Cup awards, and he makes the best beer I've ever had, lager beers I've ever had.
Shout him out.
And John Dean, that's right there, Topeka. It's a hidden gem. It's the only reason you want to go to Topeka, folks. I'll tell you, it's the only reason. Uh, you know, he just is one of those guys that is continually learning, and I think that's what inspires me to keep doing it because he comes to us and says, "I got this beer. I'd like you to taste it," and oh man, what'd you do here? And he'll explain, and hey, well, okay, well, then we do something, and I'm like, hey, will you give me your opinion on this? And he'll, and we went back and forth one year on. You were talking about Urban Spice. We won a gold medal with a basil beer in 2014, and he came to our table and tasted our basil and cucumber beer and said, "That's a gold medal right there." And he gold medal, but we won the gold the next year. He's like, "I told you it was a gold medal, just a year late."
Sounds like that guy's got the inside track. He really knows what the good judges are looking for.
I'm telling you, man, he's one of those people that you can talk to and learn more in a 30-minute conversation. And I've been lucky enough to be around a whole bunch of people like that locally with, Steve Rod, our former brewmaster, Jeff's my mentor who's doing this for 30 years. John being 20 miles away and being as close friends as we are as breweries. Boulevard being as close as they are and having friends with, all those folks over there. So I've just been really lucky to, establish these relationships and learning. I mean, I can't say that enough. Just continue. I mean, yeah, just if you're not doing that, you're not doing it right.
So I have a question about judging, and I feel like this is a hot question because this comes up maybe not every year, but maybe every other year, especially with Brewers Association related events or competitions.
Mike's trying to burn things down again, just so you know. So
Yes.
be prepared.
Get it? Yeah, and I better not. I just got my first invitation to World Beer Cup, so I better not like comment anything bad. If like Chris will listen into this podcast, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure that we're on the do not listen list at the Brewers Association. So but so the practice of not awarding a medal. This is a really hot topic amongst beer Twitter. That if a beer is not specific, like does not tick all the boxes to style, but is the best beer in the category, the judges of the final table, I guess, can decide to not award a gold medal, a silver medal. I think where this completely turned into a shit show was maybe the last World Beer Cup, where Allagash White won a bronze in the wit beer category, and there was no gold or silver awarded. Your thoughts on not awarding that?
I think I said it
And were
earlier,
you
like,
involved in it?
because it was World Beer Cup.
Oh yeah,
and I
that's
was
true.
not
That's
involved.
right.
I was not involved. But I think I said it earlier. I've never been at a final table where somebody's trying to die on a hill, like that. We've had a lot of strong conversations at the end at some of my in table metal tables. My and we pay money to send our beers to this competition, and very good money to send your beers to these competitions, and get the frustration. I totally do, and at the same time, we have this list. One, we have the guidelines that he gets, but that your table captain will read off, that, well, everybody has it, but your table captain, as you're voting, will, hey, a gold exemplary style, world-class example of this beer. Like, and the second one is, great beer, but maybe something that I forget the exact wording, but that, we have these other guidelines that we're looking at. And to me, arguing a little bit more, and maybe tasting, maybe having a report, back to, as a brewer, like, I think that wants me to, like, I just want the category to be validated, and okay, and especially, like, I mean, Allagash, I don't imagine that, even I don't imagine that they are going around to the third, second, and first place beers being like, man, what did they do? Like, Allagash is making one of the most incredible beers, and they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? They're just going to continue doing that, I think. But like us, yeah, you're like, well, shit. Like, what other beers do I have to look at to compare? Like, I entered my beer into that category, and I only have one to compare it to, and that's not even the best. I can get the frustration. And to me, if I was at there, I would probably be that guy. Like, well, let's talk it out. Let's have a pour. Let's see it. But again, I can't speak. So, an instance where, what, we do have some not so good beers in front of us. So I can't say, but
Very diplomatic answer.
yeah, Chris, you heard that, right?
No, I feel like there was a vibe there that you think that that we should, try to make and recognize the beers that you have in front of you, not the, the idea of a beer, as long as it's not egregious, as long as it's not a category where it doesn't tick any of the boxes and the
Yeah.
beers aren't good. I respect that. I do want to throw out the idea that, we're talking about the beers that don't quite fit into categories, and we are obviously living in the world of smoothie sours and candy bar stouts and all the things that we just rail against on this show, which I think a few episodes ago we said we'd stop doing, but now we're back to doing that again.
Did we say that? That was a
I don't know.
2022 thing.
Yeah.
That was so last year. Come on.
But I am suggesting a category, and you're a big muckety muck. You have the ear of people, so we call it the stupid beer category. And stupid is a term of endearment. I call my dog stupid all the time, right? Because she's just stupid. She's got a big dumb head, and she's a big dumb stupid dog, and you wrestle with her. It's a good thing. So it's called the stupid beer category, and you just throw all the beers in the stupid beer category. You let them all fight it out for the biggest, dumbest, stupidest beer in the world, and you'll always have a gold for that because there's a lot of stupid out there, and you fix a lot of issues. So just you can own that. By the way, don't put my name on it. That's yours.
Well, I think so. Like, back to what we were saying though earlier, like, I guess there would be, for me personally too, there's a big difference between out like, hey, this is the perfect Vienna lager, is, hey, this is the perfect urban spice beer or barrel aged stout with something that's going to be like a lot, you know what I mean? Something that you can't control as well as a clean.
A lot of variables.
Right. You know what I mean? So I think there's a difference to me. Like, if you can't award a gold medal in a barrel aged beer category, must be some horrible beers that got, to me, that's just what it would seem like to me. But, maybe there wasn't a perfect Vienna lager, or like I keep bringing that up, but I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been involved in something like that yet.
Are you satisfied, Mike?
For the most part, yeah.
Did
I still I think the biggest thing to me is what I think he started his answer off with, is that we pay good money to have our beers into those competitions, and for there to not be potentially a first, second place is kind of crazy. And I think probably what makes it the most egregious in this instance is that it was Allagash, and who has won golds for white a number of times in other competitions, and then to be like, you're bronze, you're the first place beer, you're the best of all of those, but you're only a bronze.
Well, in
like,
fairness,
really?
In fairness, Mike, though, they have changed the recipe a lot over the years. So it's a very, very different beer. At one point, they put in juniper and raspberries. I don't know if you remember that year, but I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tommy. You were going to say something intelligent, and I was just bothering people.
In a beer judge's defense, it shows you how we don't know. Like, it's just a number, and we gave a unanimous gold medal beer a bronze and nothing else. So
I get that, and
we're not out here like cheating, I guess.
And that goes back to Kevin's first question, is that it's quite possible that 2 weeks later you could have that same beer again and be like gold, and the fact that I guess you usually, have you ever here's a question that goes along with this, have you ever judged the same category twice, or have you always been in a different category?
Day, or like
no, or like ever, like, because I feel like maybe your palate can get used to maybe similar beers, and it'd be like, oh, that's Pliny the Elder. Yes, like.
We have to fill out a preference chart on every beer style, like, whether you like, yeah, I like this, I prefer it, or I'm indifferent, or, no, please don't, or I have an allergy or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But nowadays, I mean, with the IPAs and with the introduction of juicy and hazy, like you are getting flights of juicy haze. I don't care if you say you're indifferent or unless you're allergic, you are getting a flight of hazies. You're getting you are like, I mean, there's just so many.
What
So
is it? And I feel like this is something we should have started with, but we got right into the questions. What is a day like of judging? Like, how many categories, how many flights are you doing? And what is it, 4
uh,
beers?
so a typical day is a morning session and an afternoon session. So you'll get 3 flights in the morning and 3 flights in the afternoon, and range from you know uh, 8 to 15 beers in a flight per, and it could be like sometimes you have 2 flights of pale ales right in a row. Sometimes you might have different flights. Just again, it kind of depends on your preferences that you filled out, and it's different now with COVID. I've been in it a little bit long enough to remember the old days where we all used to get together in Denver during the week of GABF. It's over, which brings up kind of what you were talking about earlier, Kevin. It's over. The judging is done over a period. Now we have 3 phases where judges come in and start the medals out, and so it's the same.
So one of the things I want to mention, kind of, I can see one of the things that I'm impressed with, by the way, and Mike, I didn't know, because I am completely removed and I don't listen to a lot of this stuff, or I'm not abreast of a lot of the news out of the beer industry. I didn't know about the not awarding gold and silver or not awarding medals before until you said it. So it's the first time I heard it. Like you, I was thinking from a brewer's standpoint and say, well, I paid good money, and if mine was the best beer, even if you thought it was crappy, give me my damn gold medal so I can put it on my package and brag about it, because I gave you money, right? But there is something to be said about the integrity of the process. And if you are saying, we want you to be the arbiters this year of the quality and style of these beers, knowing it's in a way arbitrary, knowing that it might be different than next week, whatever, but it's not. This is the time you judge it, and saying, well, we just didn't feel like any of the beers hit that. There's something to be said for the integrity of that decision that is kind of impressive to me. And I'm trying to see it both ways, and understand it from both aspects. But I'll throw one more thing in there, is that, I worked as a wine steward for 7 years. And I would both tell people that I could tell exactly the vintage of I could blind taste a wine and tell you if it was a California Cabernet from 1997, because I had so much knowledge of what those tasted like. And I could tell you that with a straight face, knowing that it was simultaneously correct and bullshit at the same time, because there was absolutely times where I couldn't tell that, or I couldn't tell a Barolo from a Barbaresco from a cheap Nebbiolo. These are skill sets that people have that are probably overstated often, understated often, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle.
I guess I go like every judge I've met. These are the folks that Mike, you're on beer Twitter, and you know how vile of a place that thing can get. And these are the folks in the industry that you really kind of want to be around and you look up to, and um, you care what they think, and I've never met anyone that's just going to a table like, no, I'm not going to give a medal today. Like, no, I don't, like, like when you get schedule and you look like, yeah, I got a medal round. Like, I'm excited. That's awesome. Like, cause you're excited, that flight's going to be good and you're ready to like give out an award. And I just can't imagine a judge just sitting there being like, I don't even want to give it, like, so, I mean, like I said, there's something about just,
They publish ballots for the Baseball Hall of Fame, and I know for a fact there's some judges out there that feel that way. So
yeah.
there might be a few, but they're probably few and far between in the beer industry.
Friend of the show and personal friend of Tommy's, Jeremy Danner, has been a big like put your name on it if you're going to be one of the ones who says that there's no gold medal on it. He wants to see names.
Wants to send dangerous packages to houses. Is that what we're talking about?
Like, my judge number.
By the way, congrats, Scott Rowland.
Was he the only one elected for the
Yep.
Hall of Fame? Yeah.
Todd Helton was close, and I think that
man.
he deserves to be in.
No, he played a lot of his career in Colorado, so he'll never get in.
A shout out to the Boston Red Sox for taking Alberto Mondesi off of our hands. Good riddance.
Well, I saw that Kansas City hat, and I was like, "Well, do I ask him how the Royals are going to be this year?" I'm a Tigers fan. I'm from Detroit originally,
That's fine.
and the Tigers are piss poor, awful. I feel like we're going to be battling for the cellar in the Central Division this year.
We'll see. I'm too big of a baseball fan to like. I don't care. Like, I just love going out to the ballpark and eating a hot dog and having a beer. Like, especially if I can go out with my old man. Like, that's the best day right there.
I'm with you.
We took one of Kevin's best relievers off his hands, so happy to add him to a stacked bullpen now.
That does nothing but walk batters, basically, and throws a fastball down the middle of the plate that gets hammered on a regular basis. So thank you to take from you, Tommy. Thank you for taking him off our hands and giving us a potential catcher of the future and two possible utility / starters for us. So thank you.
Hey, I'm just glad that this is now the baseball talk portion of the show.
United we catch. United we bat. I don't know what we are right now.
Hey, we got 4 closers on the team now, basically. So yeah, I'll take that. So not one guy has to have all the stress of being the closer.
Listen, you have a good team. I can't say anything. And by you, I mean you personally. You are a part owner of the Phillies. Yeah,
I am a part owner. I'm player on the side. We haven't
Player
had
coach?
one of those in a while.
Yeah.
I was rooting for you this year, Mike. We have one of our bartenders is from Philly, so I was all with him, rooting for him, but
I'm fairly certain everyone was rooting for the Phillies because I feel like the Astros have become one of the villain teams.
Justin Verlander's was on the Astros. I was rooting for the Astros because Verlander's a Tiger at heart.
Yeah, well, I was rooting for Kate Upton, so.
See, we're all on the same page. Well, 2 of us.
All right.
We didn't ask at the top of the show what you were drinking, and you just poured yourself a second beer. It looks like so.
Okay, well, actually, my first one was beer style, slow pour. It was pretty fresh because my boss and our lead packer went up there to look at their pack. So some fresh slow pour back, so I had to drink that, and just poured our Free State Ironman Imperial Stout. We've been making this beer for as long as I've been there and longer. It's named after a local worker in Lawrence. His name's Walt Hull, and we call him the Iron Man. He's made some our big door handle at our pub. He's made a few other things at our pub. He's just a great old guy, and we make this beer in memory of him. Or he's still alive. That shouldn't be. That was awful to say. For him, and we actually, speaking of GABF, we pulled a bronze medal for this in 2013, I think. So
Nice. Cheers.
Love to try it sometime.
I still have never had any Bierstadt beers. So I know that the slow pour is like the it beer.
I love it. Don't get me wrong; it's a beautiful beer, but the hell is that, man?
I've heard that from a lot of like the brewers. Like, yeah.
Ashley out at Bierstadt, she knows what she's doing. She brew there. They're making great beer. Really great beer.
Kevin, what are you having?
So I finished up my Waypoint IPA, which is kind of a new flagship beer for us because, it took us 8.5 years to make an IPA because, of course, it did as a Belgian brewery, an American IPA, a hazy-ish IPA. It's not super milky because we wouldn't have liked to make that beer, but pretty proud of that beer. It's relatively new for us. And then I've got a little bit of Glenlivet. This was a Glenlivet that came from Costco there around Christmas time. I can't remember the exact name of it, but I don't know if it was an exclusive for them. But I love a good scotch. I got this bottle from Bill McPhee, one of my partners at Barrel of Monks and Odd Breed, and it is delicious. So I am finishing off our show with that.
I'm going to have to look for that next time I go to Costco. Their liquor store has a nice selection. It's small, but a nice selection and good pricing.
There's some finds in there.
Yeah. I had this is actually the first first drink I've had in 9 days. I was sick and on meds, and so I'm having Allagash North Sky, their stout. And we don't actually get it down here, despite that we get Allagash stuff. A coworker went up to New England and brought some back, and this beer is from August and tastes incredible. It's, I guess, a Belgian style stout. So it's got some little esters going on, some fruity notes going on to it, slightly higher carbonation than you would expect from a stout, and it's also 7.5%. Oh, didn't catch that earlier. But delicious beer. And
I want both of your beers, or all three of your beers. I want to try them right now.
I'll be as a 4-pack of this Iron Man. Yeah. And actually, like, me and Jeff Demon, our my director of brewing operations, we were kind of changed the malt bill this year a little bit, and we are just so incredibly pleased with it this year. So I will send you guys a 4-pack for sure.
So send it to Barrel of Monks, and you got my email and my address there. I will reciprocate and send some beer back from Mike and I.
Yeah, let me get in on that, because Tommy sent me beer when I had COVID back in 2021, and I still owe him for.
Well, what I'm saying is I can send it out. We've got our, I can take care of it and send it on our corporate account for our, FedEx and everything. So
yeah, I'll get you some beer of ours to throw into that box.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I mean, you sent me a box with like one of everything you guys.
I tried to give you a mix of everything that we do. So that was like our we do a 12-pack, and that was I gave you the 12-pack, and then I sent you had liquor laws change and ABV yada yada yada. So I had to send you our best-selling IPA was that Yakamaniac.
That was a very good one, yeah.
That we couldn't put in our 12-pack, so I had to send you that as well, though. So.
And that your Pilsner was fantastic, too. That was which
this batch just came out. That's funny you say that. It just came out. We just packaged it today. So, oh my God, I'm excited for it.
Pilsner days are always a fun packaging day at pretty much any
Hey,
brewery.
Yeah, fresh is the best.
Funny,
Oh,
I heard Brad Miles, who's from Firestone Walker, talking about like Pivo canning days are like, it's like you get employees who aren't even part of the packaging line who are like, hey, any low fills coming off the line there of that?
It's like, nope, we were super efficient. 1% loss today. Sorry. No, talk about that beer, man. That's a desert island beer for me, probably.
It's, I go back and forth on Pivo and Prima. It's like I like whichever one is in front of me more at the time, but I feel like they can kind of go back and forth. They're just so good.
That's deep coming from a Philly boy, man.
Yeah,
That's
and
big.
I just realized today. So we're a house divided right now because Eagles are playing 49ers, and my wife grew up in the Bay Area, lived there till she was like 30, 31. So she's a Niners fan. And we're having our families all come over to the house and watch the game on Sunday. And I was like, oh, we should get like San Francisco beer and Philly beer. There's no Anchor beer down here anymore. We don't get Anchor Steam anymore.
I found Anchor Steam for like at least 3 or 4 months ago for Old Favorite Friday.
Really?
I found it. I can't remember where. It was like a fresh market or something.
Okay, I'll have to look more because I went on Total Wine's website and they're like, nope, nothing.
Yeah, I also walked past it like 3 times because they redid their labels, and I saw it and it was different, and I didn't recognize it.
Okay, I'll have to check a different store then.
Yeah,
but
anyway, sorry to jump in on that.
Victory the only Victory stuff available here is from the Monkeys family. Golden Monkey, Sour Monkey, all of that.
Yeah.
There's no Prima, there's no Dirt Wolf, there's nothing else from Victory available down here. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to get Yingling, and now I guess if I can find some Anchor Steam, then we'll have that. But man, I miss some Prima, and who have been doing slow pour since day one.
My hands on that beer. We Kansas, we are still a flyover state when it comes to some distribution. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we saw a lot of those beers down here for years and years and years, and with just the way that distribution is fleshed out, I've talked about this a million times. I mean, Victory, Great Divide, Left Hand, even some Dogfish Head stuff, like breweries that came down here and really were the only crafts available. Now we can barely get them. And maybe we get one brand from them, or they've abandoned the state completely because there's a billion local crafts that are filling up those SKUs, or they just weren't working as well. And our craft hasn't grown a lot in the state over the years. It's a shame when you go back to like an old staple and go, oh, I haven't had this in a while. I want to go pick it up. And you go back to your old haunt and you go, oh, they don't even carry this anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So I think here's a good point to start wrapping things up. But as we do that, we have the one question that we ask every single guest on the show. You might have even answered this once before on one of the COVID happy hour things that live streams that we did. But for those that weren't on that's not recorded. It doesn't exist as far as we're concerned. You've been to a beer fest. It's been a long day. You're hungry and you're looking for something to eat. And the only thing that you see available is, I've previously said purple and gold. I now realize that it's purple and white with their new colors. Purple and white Bell, Taco Bell. What are you ordering?
I do remember this now, and I think it might be different because at that time they didn't have the Mexican pizza at the time, so probably whatever the Mexican pizza deal is it like a couple tacos and Mexican pizza or something? Probably that. Yeah.
And since you get a drink, what are you when you're getting one of those?
Oh well,
are you a Baja Blast guy?
I've never had I think I can honestly say I've never had a Baja Blast. But am I at one of those like?
It's a Pepsi one.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'd probably get like the Sierra Mist or something. That's what I do.
I don't like it. I don't drink soda anymore, but when I did,
Not to, yeah.
I didn't care for Baja Blast. Like I like regular Mountain Dew, but the Baja Blast was never my thing. It's sacrilege to a lot of
like I said,
purists.
If I was at one of those ones that served the booze and they had like a boozy Baja Blast, I'm like, yeah, I'd probably try one.
Well, they now have boozy Baja Blast. It's the hard Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Joel just looked up somewhere from wherever he is and heard boozy Baja Blast and was triggered.
Oh man.
And now let's go into the last calls, the point in the show where we give each other a unspecific amount of time to voice our opinion on whatever it is that we want. Negative, positive, whatever. It's uninterrupted, unopposed, unobjected. And I'll even give you a moment to think about it, Tommy, in case you were unprepared.
I don't
because
need
I should
a lot
have.
of time. I don't think I need a lot of time. I think I know what I want. Yeah.
Okay, then go for it. I was going to have Kevin go first, but you go.
Oh no, like Wu-Tang is the greatest. That's it.
Oh, I shouldn't be surprised that it was Wu-Tang related.
That's it. Wu-Tang's for the children. Rest in peace, old dirty bastard.
I saw Wu-Tang live 3 times. Once with Rage Against the Machine in the Palace of Auburn Hills. A couple times in some dirty, dingy bars. I'm with you, brother.
All right. Well, this is still my last call then. But my first beer recipe I ever made was called 36 Chambers. In 2019, right before COVID, Wu-Tang played in Wichita, Kansas. I worked as a sales guy to talk to the venue to get my beer on tap there. And my beer on tap there. And I don't know if it's true or not, but when I was watching them perform and I saw You God and Master Killa, the beers that they were drinking were the color of the beer that I made, and because I saw the rest of that draft list. Can't say that they were, but as far as I'm concerned, Wu-Tang drank my beer, so that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think that's it.
Kevin?
All right, so I have to get real with you guys that are here with me and the people listening. So for those of you who don't know, I have a father. I was not spawned from Satan's anus. I'm a real human being that was conceived by normal means, and I have a dad. And my father was not aware that I had a beer podcast. Probably because I did not want him to. Did not want to bring embarrassment upon the family with him listening to it. He was aware that I had a professional wrestling podcast with Mike for years and years and years, and we share a lot of love for professional wrestling. But I recently let him know, as he was watching some of my old favorite Friday videos, that I have a podcast that he could actually listen to. So he started listening to this, and to my horror, I realized that on multiple occasions, I had defamed, insulted my father by using him as some kind of example of X, Y, and Z. Like, just something in the back of my mind. I'm trying to make an example, and I used my dad as an example. So first and foremost, let me just say this. I am a scumbag. I am a bad son. And all that is 100% true. I will call out 2 things. And I love, Tommy, that you mentioned this because this ties into this in a little bit of a way. I, at one point, said my dad did not like rap music. And I was comparing something to the fact that, progression and, learning from the kids and learning to love other people's music is a thing.
For this podcast,
my dad heard this. and was offended by it because he then sent me a text message with like 20 rap songs that he actually liked over the years. Now, it's true that he doesn't love rap, right? Not his favorite style of music. But to insult my father's musical taste is ridiculous because my musical taste, Bruce Springsteen, The Pogues, Warren Zevon, Steve Earle, Bob Dylan, John Lennon, the music that I listen to that I love is because of my dad, who has wonderful music taste. And I should not have made a blanket statement about him that was so egregious. And then secondly, and another example of talking about his stodginess and kind of steadfast nature of being unwilling to change in a certain situation and trying to compare it to myself because I want to be able to, change and grow as a person as I get older. I use my dad as an example of someone who didn't do that, which is terrible. What kind of son goes on a podcast and says something so terrible about their father? I will throw out these two examples. One, my father became a vegetarian in his 40s because he did not want to kill animals anymore. He was a meat eater his entire life and came to a personal responsibility of saying, I'm going to no longer do that. That is a person willing to change. And another thing is in his 50s, and I might be butchering some of these timelines, and I'm sure that this will be another thing that I will get a text message about how I'm a scumbag of a kid. And that's true. That is 100% true. And most of our listeners think that anyway, so I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. But I said that, I should say that my dad had prioritized his mental health in his 50s and taken some steps. It's none of anyone else's business, but done things as a man, which is a big deal, to sit down and say, I'm going to prioritize my mental health and take steps, whatever that is. I don't care who you are out there. If you're doing that as a male in their 50s, you are a person willing to change. You're the best of us. So, to my father, who is, I hope, listening to this as my mea culpa, as my apology, if I am changing and evolving, it's not in spite of you, it's because of you. And I really hope you don't listen to any other back episodes because I don't want to have to do this again. So stop listening to back episodes, listen to everything going forward so I can make sure that I do nothing but praise you and honor you because I love you and you're my favorite person. So love you, Dad.
You're here. Awesome.
I grant you, Kevin, a pardon for everything you have said in the past or may say in the future about your father. Even though I told him not to say those things.
Mike is on your side, Dad.
Yeah.
Mike is on your side. He always has been. He's given me dirty looks when I said nasty things. It's my fault. It's all me.
See, Kevin's dad listens to the show. My mom listens to the show. So I've never said anything bad about my mom.
That's because you're a good person, and that's the difference between you and I.
So I just wanted to say that 2023, I think, is going to be a big year for our industry. And I alluded to some of this stuff earlier with Tommy talking about his mental health in the industry. And I think mental health in this industry should be a thing that we all take a little more seriously this year. And I think that it should be a kind of a non-negotiable thing. That if you're struggling mentally and it's because of your work, talk to your work about it. Talk, even if it's not beer related. We need to be more open about these things, and we need to be honest about these things, and we need to take ourselves out of bad situations too. I know that there's kind of a whole thing about Gen Z, they're quitters and blah, 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 blah. Good. Don't take fucking shit. I want more people in this industry to stand up for themselves over a myriad of things: bad pay, poor working conditions, being safety, being asked to do illegal shit. Like, stand up for yourselves, because these companies can't do this stuff without you. And as some of your bosses might say, well, I can go get someone else. All right, cool. Go do that. And then those people will learn and they will leave. And those people after them will learn and they will leave. It would be easier for a place to change their whole culture and their whole dynamic on how they treat their employees and make a better company and a better environment for everyone to work in, rather than have to go and find replacements all the time because you want to pay them shit. You want to make them work 12-hour days, 60-hour weeks, and all of that. Stick up for yourselves, because this industry needs you more than you need them. And I think that there's a reckoning coming in 2023. And I think that it will be better for this industry. There might be a lot of companies that go under, but I think it will be better in the long run for everyone. Tommy, do you want to plug anything?
Man, if anybody's listening, wants to ever in Lawrence, Kansas, please come out and see us. Or if you're in the Kansas City area, please come out and see us. I mean, we got history. It's a fun brew pub. It's a great little, day trip. Yeah, just come see us. And if you see me, I'm the monkey in the window. Just knock on the brew house windows and come out. Maybe have a beer with you or something like that.
I forgot that one of my favorite bands of all time is from Lawrence.
What do you get up? It's
related to them, Coalesce.
Okay, yeah.
I think the lead singer runs a big screen printing business in Lawrence. Blue Collar.
Blue Collar Press.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of Split Lip Rayfield as well. They're like a bluegrass band, but they have the same type of thing. One of their guys runs a printing press as well. He's a good regular. Shout out to Jeff.
Oh, sweet.
But yeah, it's a great town. So if you're ever, Kansas is cool, believe it or not. It's fun. So come out and see us.
I just have to say, anyone who's listening and doesn't know this, a brewer saying on a podcast, inviting you to come knock on a window and he'll come out and say hi. Most brewers are basically like trolls under a bridge, right? They don't want to interact with you. They're going to ask you 3 questions so you can get away from them. So that's a hell of an invitation. So that's very, I respect that a lot.
I didn't say I wasn't going to spray yeast at you or anything like that. I get a little water sprayed at you or something, but no. But no, I love, I think that's I was a bartender at Free State, so I think that was, part of the regulars know me as that. They know me as a brewer. They know when I get done, doing whatever I'm doing that day, that I'm probably going to come out and have a beer or two, and it's not uncomfortable. Come up, talk to me, ask me, tell me, hey, when are you going to brew this? When are you going to brew that? When you drink more of it. That's what.
Once again, not typical of brewers. So you are the best of us, my friend.
Hey, that's why they pay mediocrely, my friend.
Kevin, anything you want to plug?
If you're in the South Florida area, we just did a can release, Mocha Quad and our Waypoint IPA. I'm really proud of this Waypoint IPA, and I have no right to be because I didn't do anything. I just stood there and I ordered the ingredients. Ralph Renault is the person who made that beer and has made it so expertly, and it is a new flagship of ours. And if you love the hazy IPA flavor profile, and you are a brewer, you'll appreciate the fact that the pounds per barrel for this beer are around 2 pounds per barrel for this. It is not overly hopped because of the yeast strain that he picked out and the way that he uses this to, and even the hops that he's using are in a lot of ways like traditional California sea hops to get all this tropical fruit expression. It's incredible. It really is an incredible beer, and I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of Ralph, and I really want more people to try the beer. So if you are in this area, please come down and give it a try.
Yeah, I just want to say to that, I took a bottle. You gave me like a 4-pack of that. I took a bottle into work to let everyone try, and my boss especially was very impressed by what the yeast, what theolized yeast was it
The
that you?
thiolized yeast, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Centennial, Chinook, and Eldorado, and it's got all this peach and tropical fruit flavor.
Stuff you don't get out of those hops, like usually. It's very impressive for those hops to get those flavors.
It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work and research and learning a lot about this stuff and stuff above my pay grade.
I'll add my stuff onto the outro after this. But I just want to thank Tommy for coming on and talking shit with us for a little bit.
My pleasure. It's a long time coming. I
Yeah.
wanted to do it with you guys, and I'm glad we were able to finally do it. And yeah, man, just you guys got my info. I'm down to talk anytime.
Thanks a lot, Tommy. This is the first time I've had a chance to interact with you at all, and it's really been nice to meet you and chat.
Well,
I'll get Kevin on Twitter one of these days.
Yeah, like I said, I can't. I'd love to shout you out on my my Twitter account, but free Dilla Woo, But no, but if you guys are ever up at GABF or something like that, I'm usually up there, so I'd have my info. I'd love to run into you guys, have a beer, talk, and meet in person.
Yeah,
Cheers, brother.
for sure, man.
Sure.
All right, thanks a lot, Tom.
No problem. My pleasure. Thank you again.
All right.
Good night.
Have a good night.
One more time, another big thanks to Tommy for taking some time out of his day and coming onto the show. If you would like to follow the show, you can follow us on social media. We're at United We Drink on Twitter, at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. We're on Facebook as well. If you want to follow me, I am Mike Loves Beer on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to check out the show on your podcast app of choice, say you're brand new to the show and you maybe just listen to this in your browser or something, we are on all of the major podcast apps. Find us on that app that you like to use, subscribe to the show, and you'll get brand new episodes delivered to the device of your choice when we release them. If you would like to support the show, go check out our website, unitedwedrink.com. We have a Brands We Love page where any purchases that you make through those brands go and help the show financially. It pays for our hosting fees. That's all. We don't make any money off of this show. We're just looking to not have to pay for our hosting every once in a while. And that's pretty great. And by not pay, out of our own pocket. That's what I mean. We also have shirts, buttons, stickers, totes, and all of that on our store, unitedwedrink.com/store. Another way that you can support the show. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, just go and rate the show. Give us a review. It takes a minute, and it really helps out the show in the algorithm. So those are ways that you can support this show. We would really appreciate any of those. Other than that, we will be back here in a couple of weeks with a new episode. No guest on that one, but we'll have a fun conversation and a fun topic to talk about. So until then, take care of one another out there. Be good. Cheers.
Interrupt Bernard Nero, bring you a dramatic